I welcome you. My name is Aaron Sanders. I am one of the founders of the Avodah Holdings company. You might know them better as 1819 Coffee, Homestead Events, Cranford Hollow Events, or the Southern Sanctuary Airbnbs down in Columbia. Those are aspects of our business. I'm not on staff here as a pastor. I attend here because I love this community, right? Now, what's interesting is our pastor, Dustin Smith, is speaking in Franklin to a group of business leaders. And I'm a business leader speaking to a group. So, hey, when I was young, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have cell phones that, we didn't even have cell phones initially. Starting to date myself now. But one of the fun things we would do, because we didn't have internet, we would be driving down the road and you hit the stop sign and everybody would do this fire drill. You get out and run around the car and somebody else gets in the driver's seat and then you drive off, right? And so you are experiencing a fire drill. I hope you see this morning. Pastor Dustin has gotten out of the car and run to Franklin and is talking to business people, and a business person has gotten in the driver's seat here today, and I'm going to talk to you. So I do apologize. Pastor Dustin talks about there's hows, people who do how really well, and there are people who do wow really well. Dustin, if you don't know it, Pastor Dustin is a wow. He's amazing. He is almost the professional level at getting your attention and pulling you in. I describe that as there's an anchor and there's a kite, right? I am an anchor. So I like to settle into that spot and be steady and consistent and hold things down. So I apologize to you because I'm not a wow. I don't have a flag. And sometimes I don't think the camera ever focuses on me during worship because I'm not the most exuberant in it as well, which plays well for me too, because I don't want to necessarily be on that camera. I actually caught myself on it today and then drifted behind the beard of magnificence, and the shadow of the beard was hiding me. Yeah. But I am married to a kite. I want to. 29 years ago, I walked in the back of a gymnasium in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I saw this girl from the shoulder up, and I hit my buddy next to me, and I said, "Gonna marry that girl." That's it. And 29 years later, I'm still trying to convince her that she loves me because I'm kind of a boring little anchor, that whole thing. Next Saturday, we are going to be celebrating 28 years together. So it's awesome. Yeah, she's not only my best friend, she's the wisest woman that I know. I'd be lost without her. So, I don't know where that came from. See? Wow. Do you see that? Thanks, Rick. Thanks. Rick is my cheering squad. He's going to make me feel like a wow today. But also, so this is one of those things, once you get comfortable in who you are, I think it's important that we do get comfortable in who we are. I'm not trying to be somebody else, and you shouldn't try to be somebody else either. You be you, and 100% of you is amazing. And I wish there was some way to flash back in time to my younger self and really believe it, right? That's why I love this young adult group, because they are in a position that they're believing it. And I want you to be able to speak life to those people, and they will speak life back to you. What a community. That's why I don't just do church, I do life, right? That's an important part for us. But when I was a little kid, I was not allowed to wear pointed toe shoes or pointed toe boots. And the reason I wasn't allowed to is because I would kick people. Discernment is really high in me, even as a little child, and I justify it by saying, you needed it. I see what's going on here. So that's just the way that I was raised, and my mom would get me I always had the weird cowboy boots, the ones that are flat on the front. I didn't know why, but it was because I was apparently violent. But you know what? My mom and dad were on a mission, and you don't know them. They're watching online today, I'm sure. They're always watching online. And for those of you who may get a little bit frustrated if the camera person gets in the way, or you're just like, why are we doing all of this live streaming stuff? One of my best friends this morning is not able to be here, and so he's watching online. My parents don't have a community in where they live, and they're watching online. So the next time that camera gets in your way and you're just like, why are we doing that? We're doing that because we have friends and we have family, right? My prayer is that my mom and dad move here, and so you can join me with that. I would love that. I would love for you to get to know them. They were intentional. Well, this is the month of mission here at Hope Unlimited Church. And for me, that kid that was kicking people, they had a mission to try to raise not a child, they were trying to raise an adult who doesn't kick people. Now, I'm telling you that there are, I will come by somebody and I'll think, you might need kicked. But I have matured to where I just think it. Now, my wife tells me that you don't have to, I have strong opinions about almost everything. Really strong opinions about most everything. I'm an overthinker, so I think deep into things and then I have an opinion. And she tells me, you know what? You don't have to share all of your opinions. It's okay. It's okay. You calm down a little bit. You don't have to. So she said you just be quiet on the subject. So I'm going to be quiet about the Super Bowl today. There you go. Yeah. I'll be quiet because I have strong opinions. And they may not be what you're thinking they are. So, but my parents were missional. They were trying to raise this people-kicking kid into an adult that could control emotions and function well. And I want to tell you about Mr. Henry, who Mr. Henry is in my life. I also am because I'm a deep thinker, I also know better than most everybody else. And when I am a teenager, I know definitely better than everybody else, right? It just happens to be that way. And so now I'm 13 and I'm 14 years old, and I begin to use my mind as this weapon against my parents and their way of doing things, and they're not as smart as they used to be. And when enters Mr. Henry. Mr. Henry is a business owner. Mr. Henry is very organized, and he has a farm, and he contacts me and says, Aaron, I need your help. We're gonna start clearing brush on my property. You're gonna climb trees with a chainsaw. I'll never forget this. I was cutting a tree, and the branch fell to the ground, and he was down there, and suddenly he just takes off running like a maniac. And I'm like, what is going on? And he runs and jumps into this giant puddle of mud where the cow pasture is and goes under. And I'm thinking, he lost it. Well, what I didn't know is there was a bee's nest on the end of that branch that I just cut, and it landed by him, and he was trying to get away from it. So we had adventures, Mr. Henry and I did. And I got to see a 60-year-old guy go running across the field and jump into the mud because he's trying to save himself. He also contacted me and said, hey, we're going to build a house. I need your help building a house. I don't know how to build a house, but I worked with him building a house. Now, time happened. I graduated. I met this amazing, beautiful lady, and 20-some years later, when I go home to visit, I always end up making a stop by Mr. Henry's house. Talk to him and Miss Kay. Miss Kay would hug you, and the hug would cut the oxygen from your throat while you're being hugged, because she loved just to hug you so well, and you couldn't breathe, because somehow she got it right in there, and you couldn't breathe when Miss Kay hugged you. And so I would visit with Mr. Henry. A couple of years ago, I took some time. It was a busy season. I probably hadn't been north of this property maybe a handful of times in a year and a half, because we were launching this thing, and I could go from my house to here and from here to my house, and sometimes I would just stay here. And Mr. Henry passed away. And I had to make a choice. I didn't really have the time. You know, you're busy. But I wanted to go and honor Mr. Henry's life. And so I went to the funeral. And while I was at the funeral, my dad talked about it and the community talked about it. There was a whole thing that happened I didn't know about. So you see, I got so smart, so intelligent in my teens that my dad and mom realized our mission is going to be compromised. We're not going to be able to raise this people-kicking boy into an adult just by our influence alone. So they went to Mr. Henry and said, hey, would you pull him in? Because Mr. Henry had a great work ethic, and he was a very moral-minded person, but he was also a little bit edgy. Sometimes he would say some things that you probably wouldn't want to say at church. So my dad knew he's got the values that is our family, but he's edgy enough that Aaron's going to respect him. I didn't know all that happened. Now I've been married for 20 years when I realized, oh my word, there's a whole plot that was happening. And then I realized something else had happened. Over the last years, I would call my parents and I'd say, where are you guys at? Oh, we're out to a fish fry with Mr. Henry. Oh, we are at the John Wayne Museum. I didn't even know there was a John Wayne Museum. We're at the John Wayne Museum with Mr. Henry. We're traveling here and we're traveling there. The agreement was, you pull my son in and I'll be there for you as you age. Now that is why I do life with people, not just do church with people, right? There's a group, and I'll just confess, I'm out of place this morning. I should be in my home group this morning. Now, when you're in your home group, the requirement is that you stay in your home group. You don't come here and take up a seat, right? Because the seats are limited. But I look around and I see my friends from my home group that are here too. And I love them. I love them. Because we do life together. One of them sent me a message and said, are you speaking tomorrow? Yeah. Well, I got to see that in person. I want to be there. It did my heart good, right? Because we do life together. But my parents, that story of Mr. Henry illustrates mission, right? We need to be on mission. And I want to talk to you today about two forms of mission. One is a corporate kingdom of heaven mission, and the other is an individual personal mission. Sometimes Western Christianity lumps all of our expression of God into our personal relationship with our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. The unfortunate part about that is that leaves out my brother and my sister and my friend, right? We have to have a full expression of the kingdom of heaven. And so, once again, I am not pastoral in the way you might be used to being pastored. I'm used to coaching. So I'm going to be doing more of a coaching today about two subjects, which is one, a corporate mission, and then an individual mission. Now, one of the reasons I love to understand more of the language of the Bible is because it's very expressive, the language of the Bible is. So when Jesus said, look, the gates of hell will not prevail against this thing. The gates of hell cannot resist this thing. My ears take notice. And in our English language, that word that says the gates of hell cannot prevail or come against this is church, my church, right? We have some baggage about, a church, and what's that? That means that gathering that happens on Sunday, and it's so much more than that. So I like to go to the word that he used when he said, look, this is the gates of hell won't prevail against this. And he said the actual word is a Greek word, and it's ecclesia. He said the gates of hell can't prevail against an ecclesia. So then I go and look, what is an ecclesia? And an ecclesia is a Greek cultural gathering of basically politicians that say we want to advance Greek ideology in our culture, and so let's get together and strategize about ways to advance the Greek ideology in culture. So Jesus, talking to his disciples, would have said, hey, I'm going to create this thing, and the gates of hell can't prevail against it. Their frame would have been synagogue or gathering, and he used a different word, a strategy session. So today we're going to have a strategy session for our mission, right? And so I want you to take this seriously. At the end, I'm going to challenge you with some after action analysis in your own life. This is for you to have a conversation and eternal dialogue with God about some of the things that we're going to cover. So I just want you to be prepared. There's a pop quiz, and you're accountable for giving it, okay? So don't cheat. Okay, we got to start with the original. I've got, the other thing about being a how is I have all these notes, and last night I quickly put it into an AI and created a podcast out of the notes. And I told my wife, what do you think about, I just give them the podcast of these notes and we all save the time. Because according to AI, I have about 20 minutes worth of content, and don't worry, I can spread it over 60 minutes. But you could get it in 20, and then I do the cost-benefit analysis, and I know that the retention rate in a room like this is about 10%, right? But I'm gonna have to be here for 100% of the time, and you're only gonna walk away with 10%. If I gave you the podcast, we'd all be better off. You could listen to it all week, and you could get a head start on cooking your Super Bowl food, right? And she said, yeah, the kites don't fly that way. That's not... It's way too efficient. So here I am, and I'm going to walk you through it. And I'm going to be here on 100% of the time. While you're there 10, maybe 10. Some of you I've looked out and I thought, you're not even here. If I had pointed-toed shoes, I'm just saying. Okay, I got to get back on it. I'm going to get off, and then I'll say something that is not good. Okay. I always look at my wife. I told a group I was talking to this week, I invited her to sit up by me. And so if I'm ever at a dinner with you, I always have my wife sitting right next to me because under the table, she will put her hand on my leg. And if that means I'm either talking too much or I've said something that, whoa, hey, hold on a minute, don't say that. If the hand's on my back, I'm doing good and I can keep going. So it's like, so if she gets up here and grabs my leg, I'm sorry. Yeah, somebody got it. Okay, I've got to get back to it. Let's go. We're going to go, just so you know, we're going to go from Genesis all the way to Galatians. I have volunteers to read because we're gonna be. I'm just going to cover some points in those. Let's start with the original, the corporate mission, right? God says, I'm going to create an outpost of heaven, and I'm going to build this planet, and it's going to separate the waters. And, to read all of it in Genesis is a beautiful the account of here, we're going to build this place. And then it's not, this is good, and that's not good, and this is good, and that's not good over the days that he's building. And he puts a guy in the garden, and he's like, you know what, that's not good that he's alone, because he's going to say something out of pocket, and somebody needs to say, like, don't say the thing out of pocket. So now we've got a man and a woman in this beautiful outpost of heaven. And there's a Bible verse, let's put that up, Genesis 1. Say thank you for the people that run this behind the scenes. Isn't that amazing? Sometimes we're like, hey, there's the thing, and then it doesn't happen. And it's only then that we think about the person that's up there. So, thank you. Somebody just put this up. Some magic just happened. Then God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, birds of the heavens, over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. Now, I have some thoughts about creeps on the earth, but I'm not going to share it. Something's missing from that list. He did not give them authority in this outpost of heaven. He did not give them authority over themselves. He actually said, I want to retain that authority over self. And hey, guess what? Also, I didn't give you authority over other selves. That's not in the list. We should have dominion over all the creeps, not all the peeps. Right? See what I did there? I have some wow that's rubbed off on me over the years. And see? It's an anointing. He did not give them authority. So let's put this into a business context. You are franchising something. You're going to franchise a Chick-fil-A, and you come to a city and you say, you know what, I've now got this franchise. I have authority over these fryers and these people and these processes, and the home office has given me all of this stuff. But you know what I love? Tacos. So my Chick-fil-A is going to have tacos at it. Home office is going to come and say, who gave you authority to start making tacos? That's not what we're doing. So this is what the original mission God put into place. He said, I'm going to franchise an outlet of heaven here, and I'm going to give you dominion and authority and control over it. But hey, just one thing I want to do, I want to be a home office. Like I want to be the authority in this operation. But man, you have dominion over everything else. You can tend the garden. You can work in there and you can enjoy all of the benefits of it, but just let me be home office. And do you know what the answer to that was? My 13 or 14-year-old self is reflected in the people that are occupying the outpost of heaven, and they know everything. So, I get what your home office, but we're going to have tacos here anyway. And what happens, it's the beginning of mission drift. The mission corporately is an outpost of heaven on earth. Once we to say, I'm going to take my own authority over this, the mission begins to drift. And what happens when the mission drifts? You don't lose salvation. You lose access to heaven on earth. Why was Jesus so adamant about the kingdom is coming and the kingdom is here on earth, and all the parables he told about the kingdom? It's because he knows the original mission was an outpost of heaven on earth. Now, my personality would say, put the pointy-toed boots on and give them a kick. God says, no, we're just going to keep working on it, all right? We're going to be patient a little bit. And so our next slide is 1 Samuel. So let's read that. The people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, no, but there shall be a king over us, that we also may be like all nations, and that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles. Now, I would recommend that you take some time and read the entire Bible. But if you don't have that much time today, read all of 1 Samuel chapter 8. Because before this, it's laid out really clear. Now we're stepping back into the franchise model, and you're getting ready to be able to choose again. What are we going to do? Are we going to actually make chicken, or are we going to make tacos? God circles it back and he says, what are you going to do? And now in the earlier parts of chapter 8, he lays out and says, look, this is what's going to happen if you choose your own way. They're going to take your kids, they're going to take the 10th that is actually supposed to be given to God, and they're going to take it for themselves, this king that you want, this human king, to have authority. Remember when the garden, there was no authority given to authoritate over people or yourself. But now we're weighing it out. Do we want to have that authority over us? And God's trying to make it very clear, it's bad. I don't know how many times the Bible can be clear. It says, hey, there's life and there's death, there's blessing and there's cursing, and we have to be told how to choose. Why? Well, we can cluck our tongues and point our fingers, but we've all done it, right? So what we're talking about is the missional drift is starting to happen again. And the verse that I just read to you is the summation of it. Hey, guess what? I hear all the bad things, but we want it anyway. Once again, slip the pointy-toe boots on and kick them to the curb. God doesn't do that. He just bides his time. The mission still needs to be accomplished. Just like my parents would say, hold on a minute, I'm going to bring Mr. Henry in because the mission needs to advance. It would be easy just to lock me in my room, right? And say, you're not allowed to do anything. I'm going to take the keys to your car. By the time I was 15, I had a black mint condition Camaro with chromed out wheels. I mean, it was nice. The problem is I am not a wow. So what I actually wanted and I couldn't afford was a Lincoln Continental. I'm telling you, I looked everywhere for one, and the only thing I could find is this Camaro, and so now I'm riding around in a Camaro, right? But my parents could have taken the keys from it and said, look, you're still under my roof, and we're not going to do that. They recognize the mission is bigger than the moment, and that's how God functions. He realizes that the mission, an outpost of heaven on earth, is bigger than the moment in the garden, and it's bigger than this moment in 1 Samuel. And so we flash forward. Now I want to share with you Galatians chapter 4. But when the fullness of time had come, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law, so that we might receive adoption as sons. When the fullness of time had come. Remember, he's trying to return the mission. And what is the fullness of time? In Galatians, I love that we have a resource here, multiple resources here. I love to talk to Pastor Rick because he helped me understand the context of Galatians. They probably were the most oppressed group by the Roman Empire, right? And so then this writing to Galatian church says, oh, God looked down and he said, the perfect time to come is right now. And they had to have been like, this is not the perfect time. The Romans are oppressing us here. Well, what was the Romans' culture? The Romans' culture was to take land from somebody, indoctrinate the people that were in that land, and give that land back to those people for them to operate as a franchise of the Roman Empire. So when the fullness of time would come, God said, oh, look, there's a model in place now. There's a Mr. Henry that we can plug them into, because the mission is kingdom of heaven on earth. So when the fullness of time had come, there's a model in place. Then Jesus came on the scene to embody the mission. And what did he talk about? The gospel? Nope, that's the death, burial. That's after. He talked about the kingdom. He talked about the outpost of heaven on earth. Why am I passionate about running businesses? Because the outpost of heaven cannot just be a 10 a.m. service on a Sunday. I love this. We're always going to do this. I love my home group, but it cannot just be limited to a 10 a.m. service. Your business, whether you own it or you work in it, your family is an outpost of heaven. That's the corporate mission that we're on. Now, it's not about how well you play this or how well you talk or how well you sell your product. It is about the kingdom of heaven. No wonder the golden ticket of Christianity, which I hardly ever hear people actually explore and do a deep analysis into, is seek first the kingdom. Why is it a golden ticket? Because read on. Don't just read that little part. It says everything else. Stop for a moment and think of everything else. What is stressing you? I love Ty. He said, hey, look, I get you got some problems and you're thinking through this and you're taking every thought captive and all that. Think about those things. And he said, I'll take care of all of them. Easy. That's all mine. I got it. And then as if we are birthed from the same people I told you about in Genesis and Samuel, he's like, no. I'm going to make it real clear. Well, don't worry about what you eat. Don't worry about what you wear. I got all of it. That's the golden ticket. Seek first the kingdom. And this is that interwoven truth all through Scripture. The corporate mission is to have an outpost of heaven on earth. So now let's bring it down to a catalyst moment. One more Bible verse I'm going to put up there is in Acts 1:8, and it's already been quoted once this morning, maybe twice. But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, and you will be witnesses in Jerusalem and in all Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth. We are at the ends of the earth, according to what was known at that time. So it's us. Now, God is amazing, and he's got, fool me once, shame on me, or shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And God's like, I've been through this multiple times. There seems to be a need for a power pack boost upgrade in these humans because they keep making the wrong choices. So, otherwise, if this wasn't part of the Bible package, we would have more and more of these powerless tries to. How many have tried to do something? You know, it's not that we don't know what to do. January every year, we know the same thing we knew January the last year, and we're going to try to do that thing, but you don't. And Paul talks about it. Those things I want to do, but I don't do. The things I don't want to do, those are the ones I do. Oh, but thank God this happened, and you will receive power. Why did he say, don't go out until you've got this? Because there's a track record of missional drift if you don't have it. So I'm telling you, in your home group, in your community, let's have some discussion about what it is to be endued with power, because you need the upgrade. You can't keep going through this thing and just trying to do better on your own. You need this upgrade. It's why the day of Pentecost existed. That's when the upgrade came. And if you are living without your upgrade, talk to somebody in your upline and say, hey, I need to understand this. And your upline is somebody who is, so this is one of those crazy things. The closer you are to the 5 people, you become a conglomeration of those people. So choose wisely. You should have an upgrade, an upline in your life. Now, I think very logically, and I actually have a spreadsheet of it. I know where my people are, right? And I'm intentional when I'm saying I'm going to be in this group to help this group, and I'm going to be intentional about the groups I'm in to help me, right? I'm taking control of it. Why? Because I don't want the mission to drift. I know I'm to bring an outlet of the kingdom of heaven onto this earth, and I don't want that to drift, and I need the power in order to get there. That's that feeling you start feeling when we're singing and your hair in the back of your neck stands up. It's an infusion of power, and what you need to do is turn and say, upgrade, I need it, let's go, upgrade us. I told you I could make 60 minutes out of that 20-minute podcast. Here we go. Individual mission. I'm going to go through this kind of quickly. Let's go back to the garden. Adam was created. It says that the garden wouldn't even grow until he was there to tend it. Tend is that word avodah. That's that business I talked to you about. Avodah means work, worship, and service. It's simultaneous use. In Genesis, it's when Adam is tending the garden. And later on, Abraham says, the boy and I are going to go to the mountain to worship. And that word worship was avodah. And Joshua's famous statement, as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. That word serve, avodah. So what we see is God saying, I put you here to do this job. And then there's also a little extra bonus job that you get to do. You get to name the animals. Now, the problem I have as a logical, operations-minded business leader is I think, who trained him? We've got a huge property here. And I don't know if you know it or not, there was an ice storm recently. And tree limbs all came down, and somebody needs to tend this property, and you have to know what you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to cut a branch off of a tree with a bee in it, and somebody's going to get stung, right? You got to know what you're doing. Somehow Adam knew how to name animals, what to name them, how to tend a garden. My point is that the missional, at a personal level, God has hidden gifts, talents, abilities in every one of you. And the enemy wants nothing better than to give you a bunch of baggage. Oh, let's church hurt you, and this person hurt you, and mom and dad weren't there for you. And I love what Isaac said. He said, I could go down that path. He's got some disadvantages in his life. And he said, I could go down that path, but I took every thought captive. Why? Because scripture says take every thought captive. Because you're on mission, you're going to drift if you don't take every thought captive. And he said, I could wallow in that, but I'm not going to do that. Because the mission, that I love it, that image that he did when he came in with a pillow under, he's going to sleep and he's going to plan, right? That's why he was able to buy a house. He's talking about to somebody who, I built my first house at 19. You got to plan and you got to sleep. And Mr. Henry helps if you have a Mr. Henry. So Adam was trained somehow with something in him, and God's saying, I want to call that out of you. I want you, your personal mission is to discover what is that thing that he placed in you that's going to transform your world. You are already equipped for it. You might think you need to study the Bible more. You might need to go to more schooling, and I'm not saying you shouldn't. Don't hear that. I'm not saying you shouldn't study anymore. I'm telling you that you already have something in you that God created you with, and he's waiting for you to discover it. He's actually wanting to go on a journey with you to discover it. Another example of this is, and how many have read those boring parts of the Bible? Sorry, they are boring parts. I wish Numbers is the original name for Numbers was time in the desert. At least that would cause you to say, I want to read this. And then you'd get into it and realize, oh, there's just a bunch of numbers in here. But the original name tried to at least lure you in. There are some boring parts of the Bible, and one of them is this dimensions of the tabernacle and the stuff. And I have a couple of ministers in my life that just loved that stuff. And my eyes roll back in my head as we're talking about why are we, in my brain, I'm thinking, why are we peeling the skin off a dolphin to make a covering on something? Why? That makes no sense. So you didn't know those details are in there? I would recommend you read it. I mean, it's kind of why we all gather here. It's an important book to read. But God took all of this time, effort, energy, and detail into this tabernacle plan. But one of the things that we did today here, and it is a staple of your Christianity and your relationship with God, is music. And God didn't plan any of that. I read through all the boring parts, and I didn't see anything talk about this music piece until God found in his heart of his servant David a gift. And God said, ooh, I remember putting that in there. You're out in the middle of nowhere doing nothing, and you're rejected by your whole family. And what did you do while you were there? Did you wallow in it? Nope. I started discovering it. Yeah. So you might be tempted, and there you might feel depressed, or you might feel low. And in those moments, that's the point where you're to develop your gift. People say that I have this imposter syndrome. And you know what I say? I do too, and I actually embrace it. Because if I didn't have imposter syndrome, that means I feel like I can do what I'm supposed to do on my own. But when I look at it and I say, oh man, I know me. I can't do that. You are tempted at that moment to wallow in self-pity about it. And I just embrace it and say, yeah, isn't it crazy? I'm going to do that and I don't even know how. And it seems like, especially lately, that has been my life. I had a meeting on Friday and I walked into it and I was way over my head. And instead of posing, I walked in to the person and I said, hey, guess what? I am way over my head. I have no idea what I'm doing and why I even called this meeting. And you know what happened? He's just like, oh, hey, I'll help you. I got adopted. Why? Why wouldn't you just pose? Well, I know where my limitations are. I'm okay. God's going to make it happen or is not going to make it happen. So I just don't want you to lose. One of the best advice I ever got from a business leader, it was my first executive role at a corporation. And he pulled me into the office and he said, look, you're going to learn a lot from me. And at first I thought, whew, here we go. This is great. And he said, about 20% of it, you're going to learn from what I do and do well. But he said, I don't want you to miss the 80% of your learning, because that's when I do things poorly. And I don't want you to get mad at me for doing them poorly. I want you to learn. Best piece of advice I ever received, because there's a time that something's going to happen and you get a choice to stew over it. Oh, that pastor they walked right past me. I'm not really finding community. I'm not really finding connection. It is in those moments that you take every thought captive, and your growth, your personal mission is going to take a big advance or go backwards. It's your choice. Nobody controls you but you. So there are some of you today that need to take every thought captive. It's a biblical principle. What is it? Oh, I just don't really feel, I don't like this and I don't like that. I get it. Isaac just told us he has a reason to be negative. But negativity doesn't build a house. You have a personal mission. You have a nugget that God has buried deep within you. And it is in those moments like David sitting out there alone, rejected, not loved by his family, that he realizes, I can either wallow in this or I can fly with this. And I'm missional to you personally. Corporately, we're going to bring heaven to earth. That's what we're all going to do. That's why we're part of this thing. Individually, you need to take every thought captive and make sure you're not mission drifting into some negative pool that will set you back years. I don't want that for you, and I don't want that for me. So here's the summary of it. Jen actually said to me, because I'd talked the overview of this sermon to her, and she said, well, probably you would sum it up by pulling up in a car to the group and say, get in, losers, we've got mission to do. Because I'm just very succinct, and I wouldn't call you losers. Be quiet on that. The summation of it is our corporate mission is to advance heaven on earth. Give somebody some relief. You know what? Sometimes you're talking to somebody and your knee-jerk reaction is to say, give them a Bible tract or try to say God's name or something in there. But you know the reality is, it's really hard to meditate on something while a lion is chasing you. While a bear is chasing you. And the people that you're going to run into, that you are called to, I call it pre-discipling. The businesses I run are pre-discipleship models. You are not even know you're needing discipled, wanting discipled, but I'm going to disciple you in a pre-discipleship model through a business, through an opportunity to interact with you, because I know the mission is to advance the kingdom of heaven on earth. There are people who are being chased by lions. What's the lion? Well, it could be their finances. It could be their families crumbling. They don't even have a breath moment to say, is there somebody else in this universe besides me? They're so pressed. Your job is to discover that thing in you and go meet that need to stop the lion. And then God, one plants, one waters, God gives the increase. You are there to stop the lion. And Dave Ramsey does this really well. His business stops the lion. Even if you have to eat beans and rice. To get the lion of finance off your back, he's got a system for it. And then what happens in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, once your basic needs are met, you start thinking bigger. I guess I'm not worried today about where the money's coming from, I'm not worried about my family, and hey, why am I here? Who gives the increase of that? God. Who creates the space for that? He partners with you. So I'm not just telling you to make sure that you take every thought captive so that you feel better. I honestly don't care about that. I'm going to trust that God's going to make you feel how you need to feel in that moment. And I'm speaking from life experience. One of the last things I'm going to tell you is I don't do this well. There is an Avodah podcast out there. If you want to go, it's episode 2 of the Avodah Life podcast. You could listen to Jen and I's whole story. I'm just going to give you a real quick. Here I am doing, I'm no longer kicking people. I'm an adult. I have kids. I have a corporate career. I am, because I make enough money, I volunteer at the church and do pre and postmarital counseling. I do weddings. I did youth leader. I wasn't a good youth. I don't know why I led youth. You know, youth leaders are all like the kite stuff. They do all kinds of stuff. I wasn't good at that when I was a kid, but I did that job. I was sound engineer. I mean, all of the stuff that you do at a church. So I'm doing all of the good things. But I'll never forget this. Jen and I are having postmarital counseling with a couple. It started with punching a hole in the wall at 1 a.m, us going over to their house, taking the kids and separating and trying to get healing. And then here we are 6 months later, everybody's back in the house. They're doing well, the wall's patched. And this lady says to Jen and I, she's trying to give a compliment. She said, "Oh, it's so great to meet with you guys. Every Saturday we come in. It's like there's been a dark forest and we come into the light and we meet with you. And then on Monday we go back into a dark forest." And I left that session, we got in the car and I said, we have to admit something to ourselves. Our mission has drifted. If I were introducing those people to God, they wouldn't see a bright light when they see me and a dark forest on Monday, because God never leaves and never forsakes. What I was doing was group psychotherapy with a Christian label on it, and it made me feel good, but it was missionally drifted. And some of you may be sitting in here today saying, "Oh my goodness, I do all the things. I do that stuff." But I'm telling you, your mission may have drifted. Mine did. And all of the trappings, everything looked right, but the mission had drifted. So much so that I also remember a guy that I had been working out with at the gym. I met him there. He was amazing, had a bad drug problem. Sometimes he would be multiple days in the basement looking out for aliens because he had gotten on something that wasn't real good. So much so he had damaged some of his kidneys and he was in the hospital. His mom looked through the phone and found, oh my goodness, he calls this guy a lot. I'm gonna call this guy. Well, it was me. So I ended up at the hospital and they don't know, they're not religious at all. And it comes this point where in this Sunday evening and I realize, oh, church. I'm sorry, I gotta leave you because I got church to go to. And I was driving, I'll never forget this. I was driving down the road and it was dusky, dark, and the lights were in every home. And I felt like God said to me, is this important to me or important to you? What was important? The missional drift that I was experiencing. God was caring about that guy in the hospital bed and I was carried about religious service over here. I'm telling you, the drift is not just, I'm now smoking pot. I'm now alcohol or pornography or whatever it is. That's a massive drift. But the drifts that will get you are the little ones that leave you with just enough confidence that you're doing right, but you're not. Because the mission is to advance the kingdom of heaven on earth. Ty, if you could bring your group up. Look at that. I have plenty of time. All of the talking today has bring us to this point. I'm a big fan of after action analysis. And an after action analysis says, we have done this thing, and now we're going to examine the fruit of the thing that we did and determine, is it good or is it bad? How would we do it different the next time? And this is our moment to do that. And I want to just give you anchor passages here. They're not going to be projected up. I'm just going to give these to you. I don't know about you. I don't take notes in a service, especially here, because I'll listen to it multiple times. Elliot Rudell did an amazing job last Sunday. I've listened to that multiple times. And so if you're listening to this online and it's a multiple time through, 1 Corinthians 13:5 says, examine yourself, test yourself, do an after action analysis. Matthew 7:16 says, You will recognize them by their fruits. And this can be, you can look out and say, I'm going to judge you by your fruits. What I'm asking you to do is introspectively look at the fruits that you've been generating. Micah 6:8 says, do justice, love kindness, walk humbly. These are litmus tests for your drift. Are you on mission or are you not on mission? And I'll leave you with this, the closing line. The mission hasn't changed. The question is whether are you aligned with it and you have the boost upgrade of his presence with you, the abiding presence. And have you been faithful with your assignment? And hey, no shade on you at all if you don't even know what your assignment is. That's okay. That's why we get together. That's why there's power in an ecclesia, because it challenged you today to say, what is my thing? What has God put in me that I need to, instead of wallowing in self-pity, I need to look at it as a launching pad for something that's going to impact the kingdom forever. Every time you hear an instrument now, you should realize, oh wait, he values what's in me. Because he did a lot of detail, a lot of planning, and this wasn't in it. This was hidden in one of his people. So the question is, what's hidden in you? Here's some questions for you to contemplate as they're going to sing this song. Check in on your outpost stuff. Where is my life tangibly bringing heaven to earth? Where is your life tangibly bringing heaven to earth? Authority. Remember, that was the issue that derailed the drift in Genesis and in Samuel. Authority. Am I under God's rule? Or am I making tacos in a Chick-fil-A? Not going to work. Lastly is your gift check. What gift have you received? And what are you doing to bring it to the surface? I'll tell you, every day, every employee that I've got, and my kids do know this as well, there are 3 things that I require you to do every day. Mental development, spiritual development, and physical development. Why? Because I know the mission. And if I'm not on those, I'm going to drift. I'm out of shape, so I think poorly. I'm out of connection to God, so I think poorly. I haven't exercised my brain to learn something. Those are the tools you're going to have for developing this gift. Once again, the gates of hell will not prevail against you if you get an ecclesia and a group of people that hold you accountable to these things. And it starts with your own accountability. So if you'll stand with us, they're going to sing this song, and I want you to take a moment and do some self-analysis. This is not shame on you. This is an opportunity to draw a line in the sand, and you'll be different when you leave here if you choose to be different when you leave here. Sometimes we wait for God to give us these tingles on the back of our necks, and then that changes everything. But it's a partnership. It's a partnership. Let's reflect as they sing.